Hey everybody, welcome back to ClapperCast. It's a very special episode for multiple reasons. Number one, it is my birthday episode. Happy birthday to myself. But also, the return of Alina Falds. Alina, welcome to the show. Everyone's seeing your face for the first time ever. How are you doing today?
I am well. I had a really good, month and a half break away
Yeah.
from the podcast. I have, fully lost interest in film. If you just look at my letterbox over the past 2 months, you're like, what the fuck's wrong with her? um, I've
A
been
Man
doing
Called
good though.
Otto didn't do it for you? Or
Didn't watch it. It's in the local theater. I'm like, I can't be arsed to drive into town to see that movie. I might go see Infinity Pool, but I don't know. I just oh my god, it costs like $10. It's like a 20-minute drive into town. It's a lot. Even like watching stuff on streaming, I'm just like, I'm good. I've been watching the Rocky movies, and that's like my project. I've watched 3 of them so
how are
far.
those going?
I really liked the first 3 actually.
Oh, that's good.
Um, Hulk Hogan is in the third one. He
What?
plays a guy. Yes, he
I had no
plays a guy
knowledge
called
of this.
Underlips.
Huh. I
Yeah,
love that.
I know. So I was really happy I at least made it through the first 3. I feel like I
Sure.
don't need to watch the other ones, but I was trying to watch them all before Creed 3 or whatever. I haven't seen any of the Creed movies either, so it's a long project. Um,
Sure. I've just seen the Creed films and the first Rocky, and I was like, oh, it's fine. It's not for me. But I might watch them all. We'll see. I have to get
I
through all the
really
Mission Impossibles still this year. So,
2 is kind of like a rehash of the first one, but
mm,
3 was really fun. I really liked 3, so I feel like you should at least watch till 3. I don't know about the other ones.
sure. I mean, knowing my
My
opinions, it's going to be like, I'm going to think number 5 is like a 5-star masterpiece or something. So, I'm sure I'll
I think
enjoy
it's
it once everyone else hates it.
I don't know. What else have I been up to these past couple months? I went back to the gym. I love that for me. Trying to get a fat ass. And I also took up embroidery. I'm embroidering a panda right now, everybody. And that's all the news. I haven't had a lot. Oh, I'm unemployed.
You also move.
I moved home. I'm unemployed. Big life changes, but I'm having a good time. And that's what
Well, that's
matters.
good. You
Yeah,
know,
I'm
it
happy.
doesn't matter how bad your life is going. As long as you're having a good time, that's all that
It's
matters, right?
actually, you would think that being unemployed and moving home would be a bad thing, but I'm actually having a great time out in rural Ontario.
Sure.
I'm happy. Depression who? A seasonal depression, I don't know her. So that's good. Doug says hi to everybody also. Anyway, I'm only back because it's your birthday. I would have skipped this episode.
Well, thanks for that. I mean, Paul did skip it, so that's okay. For
Yeah.
my birthday, we are watching The Hunger Games 2012. This was me as a middle schooler out on the playground trying to convince kids to be Team Gale over Team PETA. This was a part of my childhood that we've not talked about yet. We've talked about cats, we've talked about Mamma Mia, so I was like, I don't want to do something boring that we've already done. Let's do the Hunger Games. And I might as well start things off. If you've been living under a rock, the Hunger Games is about this futuristic America named Panem, where they have 12 districts. They had 13, but like that's not really important for the first movie. And every year they have this thing called the Hunger Games, where they take a boy and girl from each of the districts, put them into a big arena, and have them fight to the death for like entertainment. And it's like dystopian. And this year they go to District 12, which is like the saddest district. It's like a fucking pilgrim land. And they get pick Peeta Malarkey and they pick Primrose Everdeen. But Primrose has an older sister named Katniss who thankfully volunteers. So the innocent, like, baby doesn't go into the Hunger Games. And then it's all about them preparing for the Hunger Games and going and fighting to the death and seeing, can they win? Can one of these two make it out alive? And I, of course, have nostalgia for the film, but I also think the first one, especially, like, is really fun. I think it's long. I think that's the biggest issue with these films is just like there's a lot that happens before the games, and it feels like an entire film, and then you have the games, which feels like an entire film, and it's like, okay, we got the point. But especially here with the smaller budget, I think the filmmaking is like shockingly strong at points, and I think the emotional beats do work to where, like, yes, there's definitely nostalgia in my enjoyment of this, but I think it's a good film. I enjoy it. Alina, what is your history with the Hunger Games, and what are your thoughts on at least the first film? We'll get into the others later.
I don't really have a history with the Hunger Games because, like, I am a person that's just like when everybody else likes the thing, I don't want to watch or read the thing. And like after the whole
Cut to you
Twilight
dressed in
craze,
MCU pajamas at high school with like your fucking Thor helmet thing.
listen, I was on the MCU train before everybody else was, okay? Doesn't count. But like I feel like the Hunger Games was the next big thing after like Twilight, and I did read the Twilight books, and I think I've seen all the films. And so like when Hunger Games was happening, I was like, I'm tired. I don't want to read these books because everybody that I don't like in school is liking these books, and I don't want to like the same things they like. I was a hipster, obviously. I was like, I'm not reading that shit. I did go and see the first movie, I think against my will. Like it was something that like my cousins were going to see, and I was like, okay, I will go so I don't have to stay at my grandma's house. Um, so that's it. I think I saw the second one before also, but I definitely hadn't seen 3 or 4. And I watched all of them in one day for you because I wanted to know what happened. Um, I did like the first one a lot, and I think the second one's the best one. And then 3 and 4 are shit. There was no reason to split that into 2 movies other than capitalism, but I know we're focusing on the first one right now. I liked it. I don't understand Team PETA though. I think he's a dork and a loser, and Katniss should have just let him die. He's useless. The entire what does he do? The
He paints
entire franchise.
himself. He looks like a
Nothing.
rock.
He's useless. Gale was so much better. I really like, and I know like we don't like Liam Hemsworth right now. Shout out to our girl Miley Cyrus, but like he's good in the Hunger Games, and I think he's better than PETA also, Carson. So I'm glad we agree on that.
Of course. I mean, he is the hotter. Well, like, let's just say, maybe it's not about personalities, right? He is hotter than Josh Hutcherson, I think it is. Never forget
Hmm.
also just like iconic Josh Hutcherson moment, him at the Bernie Sanders rally in like 2020 being like, have you guys heard of a movie called The Hunger Games? Aren't we living in it now? I don't know. He gave me the ick long ago. Um, but yeah, I think that definitely Team Gale. I wish he was in the Hunger Games because I think it works better. I do think PETA is like a really bad character. And I think the fact that he has no talent or skill in any sort really does hurt the film. Because it is Katniss who is like a queen, an archer, killing people, being bold. And then like PETA, like his two talents are painting himself like a tree and throwing a big weight.
And
And
being
that's
nice.
it. And being
Being
nice. He
nice.
is like
They really emphasize how nice he is. And I'm like, it doesn't matter that he's nice. There's people that are dying.
also, though, him being nice is literally like when Katniss was homeless in the rain, in the mud, starving to death. He like threw her a piece of bread. That's not being very nice. Like,
A piece of burnt bread, because later he says that he burned it on purpose, and then his mom was mad at him that he didn't give it to the pigs. It was burnt bread. That's not that nice.
yeah. I mean, I will say I think the world of the Hunger Games is fun. I've never been too into like the social commentary. I think this is one of those like films that's like trying to be woke, like, oh, look at how bad society is. They're having kids kill each other, but it never really goes deeper than that. Like, I don't know. I've never really found, maybe in the later books and movies, a little bit more with like propaganda and stuff, but like, I've never been too interested in the social commentary of the world, but very similar to like my love for Escape Room, specifically the sequel to Escape Room. Like, I do like the idea of every single year having the Hunger Games. Obviously, do not love the idea of kids dying. But like, I think that is a very intriguing setup. And I wish we had more of like the actual games in movies. Cause I think that's the fun part, right? Like,
Mhm.
I don't know.
I find the social commentary of it super interesting, actually. Um, Especially with the whole like propagandaness of it all,
Yeah.
because it is so weird to me that like all of these people are just like cool with letting their children fight to the death every year. It's like, and I like they're in their 74th year in the first movie. Like they've been doing that shit for 74 years, and nobody up until that point has thought this is weird. And I know a lot of them probably do think it's weird, but they feel like powerless to like stand up against it. But the like higher districts, like 1, 2, and 3, they're like really into it. Like their
They
kids
like
are like
volunteer.
volunteer. I'm like, that's weird. It's so weird. And honestly, I feel like it is really reflective of our society because like how
Mm,
many dumb kids are indoctrinated to go into the military because they want to fight for our country and get free college and all that shit. When really you're just going over to the global south to kill people and steal their resources.
True.
Tea.
That's the
Um,
tea.
there's really not a lot of that in the Hunger Games. I guess like the capital does exploit everybody. Okay, so it's like there's 12 districts and the capital is like separate.
Yeah, and the capitals, to be clear, is all gay people. Which I, especially on a rewatch, found very strange that, like, there is definitely a homophobia here. And, I'm wearing a bros cap, so I can say I'm not going to judge the film too much for that, but it definitely is strange, and it definitely is there.
I was reading the letterbox reviews, and a lot of people were comparing the capital to like RuPaul's Drag Race. And I could totally see that because
Yeah.
like it's like a lot of their outfits, especially like Stanley Tucci's character, it's really giving RuPaul's Drag Race.
Yeah. I also feel like that's kind of an issue, is like, everyone from the capital is iconic, and I do love them. And, like, I know I'm supposed to hate them, but even President Snow, to a point, I'm like, king.
I
So,
think he's
like,
like I know he's an asshole, but like he's a really interesting character. Caesar Flickerman, I think is his name, is an interesting character. I really liked Cinna also. Like I know
Senna,
some of them are good, some of them are bad. Also, why does everybody have like a Roman name? Like there's Plutarch and Castor and Pollux and like all of these Roman names. And I'm like, I'm sure she's like trying to do like Susan, whatever her name is trying to do something here,
Collins.
but I don't understand what it is. Like I
I don't
know
know. Is
like
she?
Rome was like an empire and conquered a bunch of people, so I guess that's it. But it was like, why are you guys so into Rome? Because like I thought this was like the
Mm.
remnants of America. What was that Roman name renaissance happening there?
I love the idea that in like book 3, when she names someone Coin, and she's like, "Oh, this would be about capitalism." Like, yeah. I mean, I don't really know about that. I also think like the world itself, just like setup wise, especially in the sequels, it gets well, specifically the second film gets very like questionable with how it uses race. Like, I feel a little uncomfy with how it just like decides to use race in the sequel, and like, I think Suzanne Collins is trying to do stuff. I don't know if she's talented enough as a writer. Peace and love, Suzanne. Love your content to like achieve all of it. I think there's a lot of ideas, but I don't know if there's a lot of like it all comes together, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I noticed that like some of the districts have a lot more like black people, especially like
Yeah.
District 11. Like Rue and the other guy from it, they were all black. And then when in the sequel, when Katniss and Peter are doing their like victory tour, it looks like everybody in the crowd that came to see them is black as well. And there's not really like much to that, which is
And it's also
weird.
the agriculture district, which then like calls back to like slavery, and it's just like very awkward. Like when you break into it, it's like, oh, that feels uncomfy because you're not doing like, there's not the craft there to do something with that.
Mhm.
But it's
One thing
there.
movies had done is I wish they had kind of like explored the districts a little bit more
Mm.
because like I get that District 12 is like coal mining and then 11 I guess is agriculture. I didn't grasp that.
You
But
gotta
I
read
know
the
there's like
books.
I know. There's like a power plant one. I don't know what 1 and 2 do. There's like fishing people. I think Finnick is from the fishing
Yeah.
people. But like I kind of wish like I know the focus is on Katniss and District 12, but it would have been interesting to see like
Mm.
what the other districts do and how they benefit the capital. I think that could have been better for like when they rebel in the later books and movies. Like
Yeah.
I'm Carson. I'm not going to read these books. It's not
No,
going to
you're
happen.
fine. I'm not asking you to.
But like I just wish that like with how long these movies are, like each of them are like well over 2 hours, I think. I feel like they could have dedicated some time to that cuz they spend a lot of time on stuff that I felt didn't matter,
Yeah. A good
especially in the
pitch is to
yeah.
make a Hunger Games like Netflix series, to where like you have, and no one would watch this except for me, but like 12 episodes. Each episode is a district. You go into the district, you see who gets picked for the Hunger Games. It's all for one Hunger Games. And then you have the finale, which is like all the games, and you know all the characters. So it's all more meaningful. I think that would be interesting. It'd be
Mhm.
long though, and no one would watch it. But if we're gonna be making more Hunger Games content, which apparently we are, let's do something fun with it, right? I don't really need
Yeah,
a prequel.
I just feel like they have like a lot of the side characters are super interesting, and I wish that a lot of them had gotten more screen time, especially in the second movie, which I saw a
Mm.
lot of people comparing it to RuPaul's Drag Race All Stars because it's all like former victors coming back. I wanted to know more about like the like I don't know their names, the like
Old
smart techie
woman.
people, the old mags, the old women. Um, like they were all of those people seemed like so interesting, especially since they were like past victors. And I was like, I
Yeah,
want to just skip over those people.
we
I
kind
don't
of
think
moved
that's right.
on to like talking about I think the whole franchise. So, like, what about Catching Fire did you like better overall than the first film?
I thought the arena was a lot more interesting.
Mm.
Um, like there was a lot more to it, especially when you find out that it's like a clock, and like every hour there's like a different scary thing that happens, but only in like that wedge of the clock. I thought that was cool. It was a lot more interesting than the first games. Sorry to Seneca Crane, but like Philip Seymour Hoffman really did it better than Neo did, bestie. Um, and I also thought the like characters were a lot more compelling because they've like won before. Um, so yeah. I thought the ending of it was a bit rushed. Like when Katniss like shoots her arrow at the arena ceiling and then all of a sudden the movie's over. But other than that, I feel like I liked it a lot better because of like the more compelling side characters.
I think that's super fair. I think that one has like probably a stronger thesis overall. Like the emotions before the game really hits a lot better because you get like the PTSD of Katniss and no one really wants to go back to the games. And like I think that all works. I think the games itself, I agree, are more interesting. Obviously, the
Mhm.
like area is cooler. It's a fucking clock that like has
With
killer
Finnick,
stuff.
it's
It's
really
sick.
hot.
Finnick is great. I also just think like I don't know in the first games it really bothers me some of the things and how it goes. Like for example, when Katniss gets to the edge, like I don't believe they're going to be shooting fireballs at her head trying to kill her. Like there's things like that where I'm like, it feels a little bit more like we just need conflict here and we're just gonna make something random happen. Sally, it does not, the series I would not say goes up and up and up. I would say it gets to the second film and then goes quite downhill once we get rid of the Hunger Games and we get more into like the political slow warfare. And I was a little loopy when I first saw these films because I saw them all at midnight except for the first film. But I do think it gets quite boring, especially Mockingjay Part 1. But then Part 2, like, I hate because it's just like big budget, like random explosion action. And it's like, well, eh. I don't know. Do you have
Yeah.
thoughts on those?
I watched all of these in one day. And I was really vibing with the first two. I was like, oh, these are better than I remember them being. I don't understand. Why did I never watch three and four? Then I watched three and four and I was like, oh, that's why I never watched three and four. Like, I don't understand how like, I know that like the what makes the first two films interesting is like the Hunger Games themselves. And like with that missing in 3 and 4, you're missing like one of the core tenets of the franchise. Um and that's disappointing. Wish they had like somehow managed to still incorporate it. Like when you see so much things from like District 13's point of view, you don't really see stuff from the Capitol's point of view. And these movies are already long as frick for no reason. But I think it could have been interesting if like the Capitol was still trying to put on like the Hunger Games and pretending that everything is fine, while trying to combat the like resistance propaganda with their own propaganda. Like I really wish we had seen more of what is happening on the Capitol side. And I think that would have kept the Hunger Games still throughout the franchise because it's just like it's gone and it feels like a very big like jump slash disconnect between like two and then three and four.
You also just like everything you get from the capital. I can appreciate the idea of like, oh, you really want to be isolated like Katniss, and like specifically for the PETA stuff. I see the logic there. Like that's the thing is like this is a capital from the first game with the fireballs to later in the franchise, like you mentioned, and like the treatment of PETA and stuff. Like this is a capital and futuristic dystopia that's like so good at manipulation and lying to people and getting everyone to just be okay with it all. And so quickly, when it comes time to villainize them, it turns into just like almost comedically like evil, clear. Like, no one's gonna see PETA in the Capitol starving and rotting and like this. Just like this man who's broken down, who they supposedly love, and be like, "Oh, that's cool." Like it just like it feels so artificial with how it escalates that it feels really frustrating to me, and I just like lose
Mhm.
interest by the end.
Yeah, there's also like a lot of times they mention like, oh, this district is still loyal to the capital. What can we do to like swing them to our side? Well, like, why are they still loyal to the capital? What is like the capital telling them that is like keeping them from turning to like what is supposed to be the good guys? And also, um, I thought it was dumb how like Julianne Moore's character, President Coin or whatever, ends up being shitty. Like, what is the point of your like resistance message? We're trying to be good people if this person also ends up being evil. I was like, I don't understand the point of that with the whole thesis of the franchise. What was the point?
That there's not neither side is good, Alina. Like neither side when you get up to that level is good. It's always corrupt and evil and like I don't know
And
something.
with how I didn't think it was.
Suzanne
They
was
just
out there writing it and thinking like this is brilliant. This is like I
they
agree though.
did not execute that very well. Like
I
when
also don't
Julianne
like
Moore
Coin in general.
I know. He was really like bitchy. I was like, "Who are you? Why are you the leader? I don't like you." And then her whole thing was like, "Let's make a Hunger Games so we can kill the Capitol's children." And I was like, "That is just so ridiculous."
Yeah.
Like, shut up. Like, I get her being a power hungry piece of shit for the other side. But like if you're the good people, why are you doing revenge and trying to get the capital children executed? Like that's dumb. That's not going to fix things.
Especially
Please.
through the Hunger Games. Like
Hmm.
you can't I don't know. I just like it reads
Yeah.
like it's important to keep in mind that despite the scale and size of these films, these are teen dramas. So like under that, like it really does show it, I think, when it comes to its final like conclusion. It's like, oh, this is meant for children. It's not necessarily like this deep actual like thing.
Yeah. I don't know. A lot of that stuff was like really giving me Star Wars vibes, and I feel like Star
Mm,
Wars is very much like good versus evil. Like the resistance or the rebellion doesn't have a power hungry person. They literally just want to stop like the Emperor and Darth Vader. So like when that happened, I was like, okay, like I appreciate that they're trying to do something different than like Star Wars and other like resistance based fantasy
sure.
sci-fi movies. But I
There's
just
a
like I
reason
don't
Leia never creates a Death
know.
Star though. Like there's a
It just
reason.
could have been executed better in my opinion. Also, it could have been one movie. Like, oh my god, when Harry Potter, Deathly Hallows Part 1 and 2 started that whole trend of splitting the final movie into two movies, why? Capitalism. It's like when they made 3 Hobbit movies when it could have been 2. There was no reason for that other than capitalism. And I don't understand why studios are like, let's ruin these movies to get more money, but then people will hate them and then we'll lose money in the long run. Because apparently the last movie had like the worst like box office turnout. That shouldn't be
Yeah.
happening with your teen franchise.
At least I think that's a trend that seems to be overall over right now. But like,
God.
Alina, haven't you ever seen this little movie called The Hunger Games? And like, people are corrupt. Like, aren't you getting it? Um, yeah, I'm happy that's done because there's no reason why this needs to be two films. I agree.
Mm-mm.
Um, are you excited for The Hunger Games to return? Because later this year we're getting a prequel.
I didn't know that there was a prequel coming out until I
Oh,
was reading on Letterboxd. And then I read the book synopsis, so I know what happens. I'm like, I don't care. Make a Hunger Games about like young Haymitch winning the games because he's my favorite
yes.
character. He's hot. I want to know what he's up to. I don't want to know how he killed, like, what, 47 other people? I would like to see it. I don't care about President Snow as a young man. I really don't. He's an
I
interesting
agree.
character. I don't care about his rise to power.
Yeah, but I think he's more interesting when we don't know about his rise to power. I don't know what happens in the movie slash book, but like I don't assume it's that interesting. But I agree about
No.
Haymitch. I will say that's one definitely like shocking success for the Hunger Games is every part of Katniss's team but Katniss really is iconic. Love Haymitch,
I
love
love
Effie. Yes.
love Vicky. She's so good.
I cannot believe these films did not get like best costume design nominations. Truly like amazing work.
Hmm.
Um So, with that, why don't we go to our just quick thoughts on the legacy of the Hunger Games as a franchise? You mentioned the pathway from Twilight to the Hunger Games. Do you see a pathway between the Hunger Games and what came next? Or what are your thoughts on the overall legacy from your perspective?
Um, I feel like the Hunger Games really started the whole like dystopian teen drama thing. But that was never a genre that I was into as a teenager. Like, I was watching a lot of, like, messed up stuff as a teenager, but, like, dystopian teen dramas never interested me. Like, I did watch the first Hunger Games, but I never watched, what are those movies? Like, the Divergent movies?
Maze Runner.
Not into it. Maze Runner? Not into it. I'm not watching any of that stuff. And I feel like now the like dystopian teen drama is kind of dead. I wonder if
Yeah.
they're gonna like be able to revive it or something because it is interesting, but I feel like the problem with it is because it's like catered towards teenagers. The like themes and stuff are just like so rudimentary that are just like
Yeah.
it's not interesting to me. Like it's not as deep as I would want it to be. Um, I don't know. And like I'm glad that I finished watching this franchise. I'm glad I like know what happens now. I will probably go and see the prequel just because I guess I should return to the podcast more often. Um, but
Okay, so
like
next appearance in November. Got it. Have you penciled down?
I don't know. It's just like it's fine. I don't think it like in my opinion, in my world, I don't think it left that much of a legacy. Or like
Valid.
the legacy's dead. It lasted a couple years, now it's gone. Although a couple weeks ago, my TikTok for you page was really trying to feed me Hunger Games stuff, and I was like, I've never seen these movies. Leave me alone.
That's so
I don't know.
random. They're trying to
Yeah,
get people excited for the prequel. They're paying for ads, I
I
assume.
think so.
Um, I agree to a point. I mean, not to just like repeat what you said, but I think this is stemming from Twilight, show that there was a teen audience. Hunger Games, we tried to do this whole like franchise with dystopian. It died. I will say I think this is a franchise that can be or like a genre that can be resurrected in a second. If the prequel does good, I assume we're gonna get another trilogy of Hunger Games films. I assume we'll get a million other teen dystopian dramas. I think the biggest issue is just like they're not good normally. They cast for looks, so you get people who cannot act with filmmakers who cannot make good films, and then the product is bad. And I think though, like Hollywood is starting to recognize that with something like Top Gun Maverick. Like I think there is a push in Hollywood, like, okay, we have to have something of quality here to not get 6% on Rotten Tomatoes and just die. So like fingers crossed, if it comes back, it's something of quality. But Lord knows I will be there for every single one. Excited because I like trash, and as long as it's fun trash, I will be there. So our question of the week, Alina, is going to be with the first Hunger Games movie. Assuming we're in Panem, we're in the capital. I'm going to say also because I don't want to be working. And who would you support on this cast if you had to support someone? Who would you stan? And I will
Oh, like
let
who
you
I
answer
sponsor?
first. Sure, or
Um,
just like who would you tweet about? Who would you support? Right?
okay. Like out of the kids who are in the 74th Hunger Games.
Yes.
I feel like I would not like Katniss because she gives me bad vibes. Um, who else is in this cast? God, that's the thing. The first movie, there's nobody interesting except for like Kato,
Rue?
and he's. I like Rue, but like I feel like I would just feel bad for her because I know she's so
Yeah.
little that she's gonna die. Like I remember, I didn't cry this time because I knew it was gonna happen, but I remember when I saw it in theaters crying at that scene. That was like a very
Yeah.
deep and moving scene. Like
Sure.
she deserved better. Um, I don't know. I feel like I would be a Kato stan
Okay,
because like
valid.
all the other ones are not that interesting. Did you know Jack Quaid is in this movie?
I'm just looking at the cast now and I had no idea, but he is
I
there.
didn't know that was him. He's the kid from like District 1, I think. And like so many
Yes.
people, I'm looking at the cast. It's like tribute girl, District 3, tribute boy, District 4. Like I don't know who any of these people are. I guess Kato. I feel like if
Well,
I was watching this, I would stand him because he's hot.
yes, I would also be a Kato stan, but my number one would be the girl from District 2, Clove, Isabel Furman. I just like love her. I know she's a villain, and I know Kato's a villain, but like they're an iconic duo. Kato's hot, she's a queen. I'm gonna say Clove. I love that we pick the two evil ones, but I would be rooting so
You
against
wouldn't know
Katniss and
they were
Peeta.
evil. If really, it depends on what district you live in. Because if we were from
Sure.
like lower districts, like the poor people, then I'm sure we would root for like the districts 11, 10, 12, whatever.
I
But
don't know.
in
I
theory,
feel like I'd be annoyed. I'd be like, I don't like Katniss as like a person. I'd be like, done.
that scene when like Peta is telling Katniss like my mom was like maybe we'll have an actual winner from District 12 and she wasn't talking about me. Roast it. But then also like Haymitch won the Hunger Games. What are you talking about? That line didn't make sense to me.
I also do not like how she gives Prim this like pin, and now it's an iconic pin. Oh, I went to the DVD release of the first Hunger Games, by the way, Walmart midnight, and they gave us those pins. But
Well,
she
I
gave
honestly
her the
didn't know there was
pin.
such a Hunger Games stand before this. Like when
I
you're like, I
know.
want to do the Hunger Games for my birthday, I was like, why?
No, that's so valid. I don't really talk about it, but I mean, it doesn't really come up, right? But like, yeah, I love the Hunger Games. But I like how she gives Prim this like pin, and Prim gets immediately chosen for the Hunger Games. Like clearly, it does not have good luck. And then she's like, okay, well, hopefully it works for you. Maybe maybe she wants her sister to die. But I think that's gonna do it. Do you have any last thoughts you like share about the Hunger Games as a franchise, as a film?
I feel like my main thought is they should not have killed Finnick. I was very upset by that. He deserved to live. He had like a really cute wife. He had just gotten married and they kill him for what reason? I was upset. I'm glad Hamish lived though. Thank God.
Yes. Right. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that an iconic series, I think the films are not always great, but I think the first film is really good. I think the second film is like just a step below it. And then the other films are like kind of trash, but no one talks about them. We only talk about it like it's a 2 film franchise. And I will be there for the prequel. So with that, let's go into our rapid reviews. Alina, is there anything you've seen recently, new or old, that you would like to just quickly give a thought on?
Mm, I don't
And it's valid if
know.
not.
Oh my God, I've been watching Yellowstone. I started Yellowstone
Yes.
after my all my friends have been like, "You're gonna love like Yellowstone." Like they've been bullying me to watch it, and then since I took up embroidery, I wanted like a show that I could watch while I'm like sticking needles through fabric.
Mm,
So I picked Yellowstone because I do need to finish Supernatural, but I made that my
valid.
cardio show, so I can only watch it if I do cardio. So like Yellowstone's my embroidery show. I'm on season 2, I think episode 5. Here's my hot take. I don't understand why everybody is obsessed with Beth Dutton. I don't get it. She's so mean. And like I kind of get it to an extent because like a lot of women like wish that they could be like that mean and like stand up for themselves. And I was like, you can
Sure.
stand up for yourselves without being so cruel to everybody around you.
Mm,
I feel like I feel really bad for Jamie because like, oh my God, Beth hates him so much. I was like, bro, that's your brother. I really like Casey. Um, and I really love Rip. I think Rip's my favorite character. Oh, because he's so fucking hot. So hot. I keep getting Rip thirst traps on my TikTok now, and I was like, I'm glad TikTok is stalking me so I can see all these Yellowstone edits.
yeah.
Other than that, I had no idea. I know it's a show, but I had no idea cattle ranching was so like criminal and political and like
Yeah.
all these things. Like there's drama, like a body drops every single episode. So I'm excited to catch up on it as I embroider my panda bear. I think there's a new season coming out sometime soon, but I stand.
Yeah.
Thinking about
I cannot
Yellowstone.
wait for you to get caught up, and then me and you can have our Yellowstone podcast for ClapperCast.
I also
It's
heard that
great.
there's a Yellowstone prequel series. I haven't watched that yet.
1883, I believe.
Is
I have not
Harrison
seen
Ford
it.
in it, or am I thinking of something different?
No, I think he's in it. I've not seen it,
That's
but
wild. Anyway, I enjoy Yellowstone. It's not as good as everybody like has making it out to be, but
sure.
it's still really interesting because like it's one of those shows where they just like end things on like a crazy note that you have to watch the next episode. Like, okay, this is a bit spoilers for people who have not seen the show, but like in that one episode in season 2, when like their entire field of cows is dead, I was shook.
Yeah,
So I dig the show. Other
it's
than
fun.
that, I haven't been watching much.
Yeah, no, that's
I
very
will see the
valid.
Rocky franchise, I hope. But other than that, I'm like, I have no idea what's happening. I deleted my Twitter. I still have my profile, but I don't go on the Twitter app anymore. I only go on it, the website occasionally to see what's going on in our ClapperCast group chat, but I don't scroll, so I have no idea what's happening. I am
Good for
detached from
you.
Twitter, and I'm glad I escaped it, honestly.
Honestly, an inspiration. If it wasn't for like I should do that with the app, because I'm like, I go on it because like obviously advertising the podcast, advertising what I write, so like I have to have some Twitter presence. But I unfollowed 800 people, so now I only
Oh,
follow like 100 people, and it's really selective, and it's great because also then I
mhm.
have no reason to be on it because I can update on all the Twitter in like 2 scrolls, and then I'm like, oh, I've seen all the tweets from who I follow. But that's a good idea to delete the app but keep going on the computer. For
Yeah.
me, I will say 80 for Brady. I think it officially comes out. Oh yeah, this week. I don't know. I've seen it. I saw it a couple weeks ago. And I don't know if I even talked about it in the podcast, but 80 for Brady, very cute. Watch the trailer. It's elderly women all going to the Super Bowl. They meet Guy Fieri. It's very fun, especially when it leads into absurdity. It's a very me film, but if you watch the trailer and you're like, this looks boring, you're going to find it boring. It's exactly what you think it's going to be. So that will be my rapid review for the week. Thank you all so much for watching. Alina, thank you for coming back onto the podcast. Where can we find you on your social medias that you're not on?
You can follow me on Letterboxd. I have started watching movies again, so I update it occasionally, not as much. I realized that like it's okay to have other hobbies and not watch movies
Yeah.
all day. So like I'm really glad I've discovered this thing called balance. I love that for me.
Mm,
But I do be watching movies occasionally. Um so yeah, I'm on Letterboxd. It's just my name, Alina Falls. I am on Twitter, kind of. My profile still exists. I just don't tweet anything or look at tweets. So like, there's not really a point to me following there. I don't know. I'm
yeah.
occasionally on Instagram and TikTok too. It's all just my name, but why not? I've been a quitter at social media recently. I might start making a TikTok again. I really want to make a
Ah.
travel TikTok, but I need money to do that. We'll
Where are
see.
you traveling to? Are we going to WrestleMania this year? Like, what's
No, because
up?
Paul's a
I
loser,
know.
and he's like, "I don't wanna go for 2 days of WrestleMania." Fine. Um, well, then we're not going. I'll go to WrestleMania when it comes to, like, Toronto or, like, New York or something. Um, yeah.
Uh,
He's literally it's his fault that ClapperCast is not going to WrestleMania because he's like, "I don't wanna go." Like, why would
he
we
would
not go for 2
go.
nights? It's
He
WrestleMania.
if we went, he would go.
Listen, I'm unemployed now, and now I can't afford
That's
it.
so
So,
valid.
yeah. Uh, the other places that I was traveling are like now that I have my driver's license, around Ontario, going to visit my boyfriend in upstate New York. I really want to go to Antigua and Barbuda in the Caribbean.
Sure.
It's a
Oh, that's a
British.
cheap. That's a cheap trip.
No, it's kind of. I found out about these things called like workaways, where you can like stay on like a farm or something for free, and
Mm,
like you just have to give like a couple hours of your time in the morning to like look after their like animals or whatever, and then they let you stay for free in like a random country. And there's one in Antigua and Barbuda. You can stay on a donkey sanctuary, and all you have to
that's
do is look after.
amazing.
I know. All you have to
That's
do is
amazing.
look after the donkeys and like their cats and dogs. So it's also the like Antigua and Barbuda Humane Society / donkey sanctuary. So all you have to do is like feed cats for 2 hours in the morning, and then you just boop around the island because it's such a small island that you can drive right across it in 45 minutes.
That's amazing.
And it's like 25 hours a week, so you could have your weekends free. It's so fun. So I'm trying to convince my stupid boyfriend to go with me because
You
I
should
would
do
not do it by
that. Yeah.
Yes, it would be
I've been
so
looking into something called digital media nomadship, where you can work online in America and then just like have your visas at like most countries. I'm really trying
Mhm.
to get out of America. This sucks.
Yeah,
It's miserable. I can't do it.
that's
Um,
valid. You guys, me and Paul are always like, "Oh, you should come visit us in Los Angeles." I was like, "I would hate Los Angeles. I really would." Paul is like, "No, you would love it. There's so many like vegan restaurants and blah 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 blah." And I was like, "I hate being around people. The thought of the traffic, ugh."
yeah,
I'm like, I'll go to Los Angeles for like 5 days maximum. I don't think I could tolerate anymore. I get sick of Toronto in a week.
that's
Can't do it.
valid. Have you been to New York City?
No. I really want
Oh,
to though, mostly because of the museums, but then I also think I would hate it because of the amount of people. But the
I
only reason like,
love
I
New
don't
York City
care to
though.
see the Statue of Liberty. I don't care to see a Broadway show. I don't care to go to Central Park. I would like to go to the Night at the Museums, and that's it.
That's so valid. That's literally what I did.
Yeah. I've like
New York
the
City
more
is
I
great.
grow up, the more I realize I'm not a city girl. I tried to force it on
That's so
myself
valid.
because the jobs I wanna do are in the city, but I like being in the woods with cows away
Mm,
from people. I like trees. I don't like traffic. I don't like concrete. I wanna be left alone in the woods. So, I'm glad I'm in that
sure.
era again. I'm never moving to a city. It's never gonna happen.
Well, in 2 years when you live in Los Angeles, we'll replay this podcast for you and you can figure it out.
If that ever happens, everybody on the planet has free reign to shoot me in the head. It's never gonna happen.
That's valid. Well, you can find me on Twitter at BP_movie reviews. I've not found that balance, I don't think. So I'm still on that Twitter for now. And then you can find the podcast wherever podcasts are found and on YouTube. So thank you so much for watching/listening. Another year of life I have lived. And we will see you next week to continue discussing all things cinema and whatever we decide we want to talk about. Goodbye.